without further ado, I will pass over to our first presentation for the day with David Letizia from Your Business Optimized. Over to you.
Thanks, Katrina, and welcome everyone. I'm going to share my screen here, hopefully, and we can get going. Hopefully that's come up. So today I'm talking about systems for professional services. I've been running my own professional services business for almost 8 years now. So these are the 4 systems that I think you really need to have in place for your business. If I can get that to move. That's a bit interesting. I'm going to have to jump into... Well, that's a bit sad. Here we go. All right. The 4 systems for professional services that I think everyone really needs to have. Like you need to have a database and a CRM. Like you can run on spreadsheets and your contacts and so forth for a small period of time. But once you start getting lots of leads and prospects, clients, you really need to have something that's automated and actually allows you to store a lot of information. Lead generation, probably the key thing that the professional services business, when they start, you need to be able to have some sort of system of capturing leads, nurturing them with content and managing all that. And it starts, in all the cases, it starts from your website or events or social media. Then you need to have a way to manage all of that. And I'm particularly going to talk about LinkedIn because I think Kay and a few others are going to cover Facebook. So we'll leave that to them. When you've actually got jobs running, one of the key things is to actually manage the delivery and team management. There's lots and lots of tools out there now. There never used to be sort of 8 years ago, but now there's so many tools that you can access to run your business and to make sure that, progress is
recording happening. Stopped. Recording in progress.
Sorry.
Timesheets and team management and things are in place. You really need to have that humming along in the background to make sure that you don't miss anything for your actual delivery. And the last system really that you have to have in place is a financial management system, to run your quotes, your accounts, the bills, and run your costs and your revenue and all those sort of things, as well as manage your budgets. And again, I think a lot of people don't necessarily do that at the start, but it's really important to have that in place. Systems like MyOb, Xero, QuickBooks, all of those systems allow you to have that in place right from the start. So they're the 4 systems. So I'm going to come back to lead generation, and we can talk about, if we have time towards the end, we can talk about any of them in more detail. Normally I go on about databases and CRM, but I thought I wouldn't do that this time in as much detail. But only to say that if you do have a database, make sure you use it and tag and manage your contacts. So let's talk about the next thing, which is basically process automation. And process automation is a way to tie all of your systems together. If you don't have this in place, you're going to be doing a lot of things manually. And like anything in business, if you don't want to pay for something in cash, you're probably going to pay for it in your time. So it comes down to how valuable is your time, how much time do you have, and automation helps you tie all of your systems together and all the activities for your business. Like it might not do 100% of it, but even if it does 60, 70, 80% of the tying together, you'll be much better off. So things like having your calendar linked to your website, having your website forms linked to your database, being able to track when sales come in so you can stop email campaigns, for instance, or any other activities that you have in your business. But the last thing you want to do is send someone who's already bought from you a special offer for the next client type thing. So you really want to make sure you manage that properly. And then you need a way to be able to update everything through your business when something changes. So I use automation in my business to manage a whole lot of regular processes, follow-ups, auto responses from people who've taken some sort of action. just allows those first couple of things to happen. And then things like having timers in place so you can follow things up after a certain period of time, managing tasks. I use tagging. I'm an engineer by profession, so I love tags and status changes. Those things really tell you what's going on in your business and where people have made or taken action. Really, really important to have that happening. Have I lost my screen share there, Katrina? Okay, that's right.
I can see it.
That's fine. Just sort of something a little bit funny there. One thing I really wanted to talk about, if you're starting especially a B2B professional services business, you need to be on LinkedIn. I see a lot of people not using LinkedIn because they think it's sort of a resume job seeking platform, and it probably used to be that. If you think back 5 or 6 years ago, that might have been its key activity. But now there's 11 million users in Australia, and a lot of those, a big portion of those are businesses who are out there, I guess, doing some branding and doing some interaction, but also out there, if they're looking for staff, they need to have their company profile on there as well to help them get that sort of traction with people who are looking for a job. So, over the last couple of years, LinkedIn has become a really, they've really changed a lot of their processes. And things like having a personal and company profile, absolute must if you're in the B2B space. And even if you're not, even if you're in the B2C space, it can help your rankings and so forth. So there's 4 or 5 steps to get your LinkedIn profile running. There's a whole process about that. I don't know if anyone's seen this book, the LinkedIn Playbook. It's the 2022 edition of this book. That tells you pretty much all what you need to know to run in Australia. There's quite a different process if you're running LinkedIn in other countries, but in Australia it works really well. So you get your profile set up, you have and I've been doing this for a couple of years now, connections, messaging and daily communication strategy. So I've got just over 4,000 or 4,500 contacts in my system, and I'm on there daily, myself and my VA is on there daily, doing connections, playing with messaging and communications. You have a content and expert positioning strategy. I'm working on my own business again now, because you need to do it every now and again, especially if you change the way your business is running. Really, really important to have that process. It's not salesy. It's about giving good value, a bit like this whole process with our digital toolkit. It's about giving great information and showing that you're an expert in your particular niche, and people will gravitate towards you if you do that. We also run campaigns that drive action. So we're looking for people to respond by calling us, by setting up meetings, and LinkedIn is a great platform for webinars and events. The next guy I'm going to talk about in one of the following slides, he runs a monthly webinar, and he has over 4,000 people in his webinar. You don't think that generates a lot of business? It keeps him really, really busy. And you don't even need that many. The rules seem to be, if you have over 3,000 contacts or connections in LinkedIn, you can run a 10, 20 person webinar once a month, and that can drive your whole business lead generation, if that's what you want to do. Events, another thing too. I think someone else is going to talk about events in a later session. And the whole thing is, like any system, you can't just set and forget. You must review and manage the whole process. It just is not going to keep going by itself. Digital processes work really well when you interact with them on a daily basis, and you have to be prepared to pick up the phone or go and meet someone. You can't expect your online stuff to make it all happen for you. So this is the guy. This is the man. I've worked with probably 5 or 6 LinkedIn experts over the last 5 years. This is the guy who's got the good strategy. I'll tell you that. You can see he's got 35,000 followers. I think that's the limit on LinkedIn. You can't have any more than that. I think he's got 40,000 connections, 35,000 followers. And he is the guy who runs the 4,000 people webinar every month. If you want to look at his profile, Adam Villahand, you'll see lots and lots of tricks in there. Just he uses every single trick in the book that that LinkedIn allows you without going into LinkedIn jail. So he pushes the boundaries, and he's really got a process done. Join his webinar once a month, and you will get the latest tips and tricks and things that have changed in LinkedIn. So my timer stopped there. I guess the next thing I wanted to just quickly talk about was, once you've got that all set up, you need to run it on a daily basis. Now, whether you've got a website or actually, that was one thing I was going to say. You can actually, when you start out, if you're not really 100% sure how you're going to run your business, you can actually use your LinkedIn profile as your website. And I've seen a few people do that now. I've set it up. If you look at davidletizia.com as a URL, you'll see that I'm just pointing that straight at my website. And you can even do it for your company page. You can point your company website URL straight at your LinkedIn company page if you want to when you start, and allows you to test and measure some things just to make sure you're getting the right, click through and people sort of understand what you're doing in your business. And particularly if you want to try some different niches, it's a good way to start your professional services business. I think that's all I was going to cover today. I'm based in West End in Brisbane. I've got a team here in Australia, as well as some people in the Philippines and UK. And yeah, professional services, it's a great little place to be. And I think that's my time's up, so I'm going to stop sharing now. Go back to the panel. Katrina, do you want me to just answer that question first, or should we just go to a panel discussion?
Yeah, for sure. You can direct it to that question now. Go for it.
Okay, sure. So there was one question that we had come in regarding event booking systems. I didn't really cover that, I guess, in my little talk there. And it's like students who want to book into various courses online with different dates and locations. And I will open this to the floor as well. I would just say that in the past, for our networking events, when we didn't have an event system like we use, we've got for our chamber, and it's got an event booking system inside that. When we didn't have that, we used to use Eventbrite, and you can use Eventbrite in the free version and not charge for tickets. If you're charging, you can still connect Eventbrite up, but it's a little bit of a process because it's an American system and it's a little bit of a hit and miss to get your payment system set up in Australia. It seems to like PayPal, but some of the other systems, it's a bit harder to set up. So I would use Eventbrite if I was starting out doing some events, but I'm sure the rest of the team has got some other ideas. So maybe Nicole or Kay, one of you guys want to comment on what you use for event booking?
I use Facebook for events and Eventbrite.
Yeah.
There's another one too, Tickety Boo.
And if you want to do something, good for the world, try Humanitics.
What's Humanitics? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I don't know the details of it. Basically, a portion of how they make their money goes to social. So it's a bit of a social enterprise, but it's also corporate. Don't ask me too many questions about it. I'm not an expert on it. Just go have a look.
That's amazing.
Yeah. No, they're worth checking out.
David, I have a question in regards to the recommendation of the book. Was that the 2020 version?
Of the book?
Yeah.
No, it's a 2022, so it came out about 6 weeks ago.
Okay.
So it's Adam Villahand's LinkedIn playbook.
He's got a 2020 version as well.
He's had it. I think this is the 6th version because he started in 2016. So he's been doing it sort of every year. But if you want to know how to do the expert strategy on Facebook, like there's obviously other on LinkedIn. Sorry. There's obviously other people who do the in-your-face marketing strategy. There's a few people who, I won't name them, but who do that process. I don't like that process, but some people do. Adam's pretty much put the content out there, show that you're an expert. Every now and again, you invite them to an event or some sort of next step, and the leads will come. That's pretty much his process.
He really walks the talk, obviously. I mean, he's even being showcased on this as an expert in the expert on that. And he's got a great resell product, which is every year he puts out a new playbook.
Yep.
So if you're already hooked into him, you're hungry, you've got value, you're waiting for the next edition to get that next edge next year, he gets repeat business through that. It's very smart.
And it works too, by the way. So that sort of helps.
Can I ask you, when you talk about the CRM system, do you have a preferred one?
Yeah, well, it's always a difficult question, Kay, and I don't like giving preferred CRMs because it really depends on your business and what you've already got set up, how much you want to spend, you know, how many leads you have to push through your pipeline to have the number of clients that you want. It's a different kettle of fish depending on what you're doing in your business and how many people have to come through as clients. Like I use Keep, but that's because I really like the automation inside it. Some of our businesses, they've got 100,000 contacts in their business. We could not do that on a platform that didn't have full automation, the ability to link into their e-commerce site and their website, and to just manage the interactions of people. You can't do that in a simple system. So you pay for what you get basically. But there are other systems that are quite cheap. People like, I think Alex is going to talk about Encore and some of the things that he has in his system that are all sort of integrated, and they're quite okay for a business that it suits.
I think it's safe to say that Encore is Katrina's favourite. Just one question. So how did you decide where to place the most individualised time and the least, like the most amount of automation? It seems like you're using the most personalisation in LinkedIn.
Not
That's
yet.
correct?
Well, I probably am at the moment because I've changed my business. So I'm actually looking to service a different sector, a different niche to what I was doing before. Because before I was mostly doing email marketing and building CRMs for people, because that's
Okay.
I still do that, and that's part of our offering, but it's only part of the offering now rather than the full offering. So I guess I've changed. I think I spent most of my time. I've always spent most of my time on building that CRM and managing everyone in the process. But I'm a big believer in actually having people unsubscribe from the CRM. It's almost as good to have someone unsubscribe as it is to have someone subscribe, because then I'm not focusing on the wrong sort of people. If they don't like what I'm doing, and I'm not really salesy either, I'm not really pushy, but I encourage people, if you're not interested in this, please don't, tell me that you're not interested, and I'll take you out of the equation. So
Yeah.
Just jumping in there, guys. We've got Kay's segment coming up very shortly, but a brilliant question there, Sarah. Thank you. And David, thank you so much for sharing. Absolutely gold advice there. I have heard of Villahand, and his approaches have worked for many people. He's consistently been recommended, definitely. So we'll possibly have to reach out to David